Hey, Christopher Power, welcome back to the YouTube channel.
Well, it's great to be back and great to be talking to Nicaragua. It's one of my favorite places.
Another little, tropical area. You're in Australia still, correct?
Yeah, I'm still stuck here. I'm in the least COVID affected place in most of Australia. And it's winter, but the sun's been beautiful. The ocean's 22 degrees centigrade, which is probably in the 60s or somewhere 60s, early 70s. And it's been beautiful the last couple of days. It's been amazing.
I'm glad to hear that. It's interesting how we find ourselves, or our soul brings us to the place where there's not as much restriction, or there's less outbreaks. Same here on the island I'm in. It gives me that sense of freedom, so which I know I really do desire to be able to still serve. So same with you. So since we were doing the monthly updates, I want to continue on that journey. So I wanted to talk about some of the astrological side of things and also talk about the world and what's really going on from your perspective. You just sent out an email recently, this newsletter, about the chaos that's going on. So I'd love for you to share, first of all, from an astrological perspective, why is there chaos right now? Can you explain it from
an astrological point of view? Well, that's fairly, I can get technical, but it's fairly obvious. One, Pluto's in Capricorn, and it has been since about 2008 or even a little bit earlier. So if you know anything about astrology, Pluto brings about profound, very deep, unconscious change. And that change has a purpose, which is to bring new life. That's the practical side of it. So Pluto brings about a death of something that leads to the rebirth of that thing in a regenerated form filled with new life. So it's one of the interesting things that death, even as a ritual, if you see it that way, which in a lot of ways it is a way of going from one life to a new life. And that means the death of something and the rebirth into something else that is regenerated. In other words, someone once said to me, death is the ultimate healer, cures every known disease. Right? And so it's in a regenerated form filled with new life. And we're all going to experience it, and we experience it in many ways. But being in Capricorn, which it hasn't been there for 240 odd years, means it's bringing about a profound and deep transformation. That was a lovely little bird there.
I heard him too.
Yeah, transformation in the structure of our society, Capricorn, our personal goals, what we're here to achieve, and what the meaning of authority is. So now that applies on every level from you personally, and depending on what your makeup and astrology is, it's going to affect different areas. Like for me, it's affecting the area to do with my value and finances. So I'm going through a real death and rebirth of my sense of value, my goals financially. You've seen that. The value I put in society and the structures of society. I've made peace with my family and came back. I've got a family in Thailand, and they've brought me to the point of making peace with my family here. I'm certainly not politically where I was 10 years ago. And I'm looking at the world going through the most extraordinary changes in terms of authority. Now, I won't go into that now, but so that's that bit. So we're on the verge of giving birth to a whole new life when it comes to those things. And at the same time, Neptune is in Pisces, and that's where Neptune is absolutely at home, and it's been there for quite a few years as well, and will continue to be there. And Neptune is about humility and letting go and forgiveness and compassion, but it's also non-rational and chaotic. Right? So I hope this doesn't take up too much of our time, but what I'm getting at is there are forces in our solar system at work at a very deep level that are bringing about profound change and healing, and the need to let go, forgive, revise or revision things, and go to the depth and tap into the power of our imagination to bring about the changes. So blaming and shaming and cancelling and all this sort of stuff is about as negative as you can get. You know, I mean, that's happened in a lot worse societies and in a lot more horrific ways, but it's the same thing. You know, it's time for compassion, forgiveness, the ability to, how can I say, I said in the email, you need to recognize what's up, acknowledge it, own it, then forgive yourself and others, and only then does real change happen.
Yep.
Now, what we've got is a world where all the energies are just going, it's time to change.
Yes.
Mars is now in Aries for 6 months. That hasn't happened for 500 years. Usually it's 1 or 2 months, and then it's on to the next one. So there's these, I talked about this in a much earlier email, a month ago, right? Seems like a month is a year. So there's all, and Chiron is in Aries. So the healing that needs to happen now demands radical honesty, really being honest. Uranus is in Taurus. So there you go. It's like, it's only through self-worth and down-to-earth practical value. Look, you've got all these great visions and all these great dreams of the world, but where's the real value to real people in a way that encourages a sense of self-worth and a sense of loyalty to yourself and other human beings, no matter how different they are to you?
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't mean you have to put up with their crap. It just means that you acknowledge them as human beings and value their value, as it says in the Constitution in America. And then you've got Saturn and Jupiter in Capricorn. So it's like having to get really real and focus. And at the same time, Jupiter's going and expand. So we're going through contraction and expansion simultaneously, which is similar to having a birth. So you ask me, you know, why chaos? It's like, well, it's the time for it. And it's a precursor to real change. You cannot have real change. Chaos always shows up when things are about to really evolve. It's a natural part of the process. It doesn't mean it's pretty, you know, like it's chaotic when you give birth. As a woman, you would have some understanding of that. You know, as someone who's been through it, at least once in my personal life, we have a sense that chaos isn't necessarily pretty or nice, or birth isn't pretty or nice, and neither is chaos. But the outcome is fantastic.
Yeah.
And the key thing I mentioned in the email last night is we've got a huge opportunity now to do it in a much more elegant way. So that's the short answer.
Yeah. And yeah, it's those reflective questions that you would what we all must be doing. And I'd like to also know, we talked about the other planets, about Earth as well.
Well, would you like me to speak to that, or is there
Yeah.
anything? Yeah, okay. Well, in the email I broke up, can I share screen? I could actually show people if.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is one of the points.
Yeah.
Please do.
Well, if I've got your permission to share screen, I can actually
Let me
see
go
if I
back
can
to it.
even blow this up. There's a better way of doing this, I know. Anyway, I'll just show you as it is. So share screen. No, I can't do it from my end unless you can.
Okay, you should be able to do it now.
Okay. Oh, I can. Good for me. Thank you. Okay, so this is straight out of the email, and it's over here. Pardon me for the rest of the stuff. But this is where I said chaos is a precursor to the manifestation of any new solution. Let's put it in business terms rather than woo-woo terms. You know, we're not just looking for a new reality. We're looking for a new solution. But it's not chaotic because we have to struggle. It's because it puts us in access to the dimension of creativity. And creativity makes anything possible. And when you're looking for a solution, you want to, you know, in business, you want to put all possibilities on the table, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's happened throughout history, but we've got this opportunity to do it really elegantly. And we talked about that previously, the 3 steps to make real change possible. And then I got down to, if you're going to address this in real terms, there are 3 questions, right? And then another 8. And these first 3 questions are crucial because people have tackled them since human beings emerged as human beings. These first 3, as far, you know, our history goes back maybe 8,000 years. Human beings have existed before that. And these 3 questions have really been at the core. Maybe I'll just stop the sharing so you're not just staring at this, but they've been at the core of the whole thing since we became human. And the very first question is, what is the role and value of tradition? Okay. Now, when I say tradition, I'm not just talking about, I was brought up a Catholic, you know, or I've got 3, 4 generations of Australians, and then we go back to Ireland. I'm talking about your DNA tradition, but also your spiritual tradition. Where did you actually come from? What's your ancestry on that level? Now, that's pretty way out there for a lot of people. That's something, however, I've done a lot of work with. And I live in a country where the indigenous culture, the Aboriginals, saw that as the most fundamental thing in their lives, not just their family and the land they were connected to, but they had a very strong sense of what they would call their stellar tradition, where they came from, as a spirit, as a soul, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So tradition isn't just like, oh, get rid of, you know, pull down some statues, you know, right? It's like what is the role and the value, and that is really, really key, both those things. What's the role and value of tradition in our lives? Because you take that away, and most of us, or you don't have a connection on some level with that, And most of us are literally lost at a soul level as well as physical level. Now, part of your tradition now is Nicaragua. It's a month or two old, but you're building a tradition, right?
Yeah.
Part of my ancestry now is Thailand as well as Australia. I lived in America several times in various different places. You know, so in this lifetime, I've lived in many different places around the world. So I'm building my tradition. And my partner in Thailand is head of her family, including her parents. So that's a big, big deal. It's a really big duty in Thailand. So you take that tradition away and people are literally lost. And there's a lot of things that come from that. Now, the other thing the Aboriginal people in Australia have is an unbelievably powerful relationship with nature and the earth. So the next question is, what is our relationship with nature and the earth? And every culture has answered that in one way or another. You know, if you lived on the steppes of Russia, it was probably life or death, right?
Yeah.
If you happened to live in Rome, you probably had a more detached, and I mean 2,000 years ago, version of that. You know, and look what's happened in the last couple of hundred years technologically in the world. We've definitely changed our relationship, but the question is still there.
Yeah.
Even denying nature and the earth is a relationship.
Yeah.
Right? So what is our relationship? This is fundamental.
Yeah.
If you see yourself as a spiritual being, why are you here?
Yeah.
Or in business, what are your gifts that you bring to the table? What are the goals of your business? Right? That's all part of the relationship. And then the third question is, how do we evolve our civilization in a way that works best for all involved?
Yeah.
Now that's a pretty big deal at the moment.
Yeah.
Behind all the craziness, there's like everybody matters, you know. Well, that was said in the American Constitution. So what's the argument? You know, it's like, oh, it's how does that work best in a way for all involved? Now that's a good question, right? Do you give everybody everything? That doesn't work because we're unique individuals. We have different needs. We have different capacities, and it always creates chaos. So how does it work best? And those three questions, tradition, our relationship with the earth and with nature, and what the hell is civilization? Well, we know that, but what civilization actually adds to our relationship with nature and the earth and helps us build valuable traditions.
Yeah.
Right? So those three questions have always created the need for change, growth, and therefore they're underlying chaos at the moment because we have to answer those three questions if we're going to create anything of value. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Any comments or? No comments?
It froze.
Oh, did it froze? Okay. Cheers.
Yes,
I can see you. I can see you, Bekah.
With, you know, the many different directions you can go, and we can go on many different tangents of like, okay, like how is it even possible to come up with the best solution? Because that's everyone's different perspective of what the best is. And that's what's happening right now, which is kind of causing chaos, right? The different opinions of what is best. And then it's causing arguments and separation and judgment in many ways.
Hell
At
yeah.
least I've seen, all the chaos is coming up. And I know that's part of the process, just going back to the analogy of giving birth, right? It's going to, you know, expand and contract at the same time, and maybe really painful until after it's finished. But I see that playing out with many different, things coming up. Obviously, COVID and Black Lives Matters, and now there's the, what's it called? Challenge Accepted, supporting women. It supposedly being something else than what people thought. So there's a lot of confusion and chaos in many different ways.
Yeah, and see, even with the pain, the thing about pain is you don't want to eliminate it or conquer it. Pain is there to understand. You need to, even when I was in hospital, I had my operation earlier this year on my leg. I never took any more painkillers than I really needed to be able to rest. Right? They kept offering me them and I'd say no. Because if you can feel and understand the pain, understand what it's telling you, then you can heal it. So a lot of people are out there trying to get rid of pain.
Yeah.
Don't upset me about anything, or I'll take drugs, or I'll do this, or I'll, eat health food all the time, so I never experience any, or whatever, But, if you work out in a gym, one thing you realise is no pain, no gain. It's, you need to challenge yourself. It's not about suffering. It's about listening and letting the pain instruct you so you can heal and become stronger.
Yeah. And I see this shift happening, and it may have to do with what you opened up with like the shifting of the planets as well. For people I've connected with, and myself included, I was, on the spiritual path thinking like pain isn't necessary anymore, and to really focus on the positive. And I observed in myself and others that it was actually holding me back. It was bypassing going through another experience to grow through that security of trying to stay in the positivity and trying to avoid problems. And so even without, the pain and the drugs, it's more of just like the avoidance.
Yes, exactly. So look, there's one thing about life. It was never meant to be this painful.
Mm-hmm.
Pain is a part of life. What we've done is push it to extremes. Particularly over the last couple of centuries, but, right throughout history, particularly once the people got civilized, we really went into sophisticated levels of inflicting pain on ourselves and others, emotionally as well as mentally, and, and all sorts of things. But as you said, if you try and eliminate pain and try and just be all positive, you miss so much growth. Pain was meant to help, to challenge, not to make us victims, but to challenge us, to stretch, to give us feedback. And I'm not saying indulge in pain. I'm just saying where you encounter it, listen, treat it with respect, deal with it, not eliminate it, deal with it, negotiate, find out what it's trying to tell you, let it, when you're giving birth, it's like, I'm sure it tells you, relax, let go, open up, don't resist,
That's you're like, make this stop. I don't want to do this anymore. Can I stop? And it's like, you don't have the choice, really.
if you really want to not only come through it, but be the beneficiary, now's the time you must open up, right? It's just, and trust me, there'll be a lot of pleasure that comes as the after effect of this, so let the pain be one of your nurses at the delivery, one of your doctors. Let it help you. And it's the same thing in the world today. We're just, oh, you upset me. Okay, well, why am I feeling upset? Why am I allowing this person to be here? And I don't mean I'm going to cancel them. I'm saying, why am I allowing this person? What am I trying to get through to myself? And I'm not saying indulge in pain. I'm just saying when you encounter it, treat it as an ally, not an enemy. and then turn it into an asset,
Mm.
so that the healing can happen more rapidly. It
Yeah.
won't go away in an instant, but it'll. I've experienced this so many times. The more you surrender to it and feel it, the quicker it changes and moves on. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
exercising
that
that
was the
muscle.
topic. I wasn't. It's a big topic this week, actually. Right at this point in time, this week, it's one of the big deals in the world. It's just something, we're talking about something that this week is really meaningful to face.
And that's pain.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
what I'm saying is our attitude to pain. Anyway, it's a great week to really refine our attitude to it and see it as an ally, not an enemy.
Yeah.
And don't invite any more than you need,
Yeah.
right? But when it is there, again, turn it into an asset, not a liability.
Yeah. Which goes back to the process of the death, right? The cycles. Pain can easily be associated to the fear of death.
Yeah. Well, what's our biggest fear? Is it going to be painful?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, is it? Maybe. It depends on whatever. But then what is that telling you? Because to me, death, it's something everybody goes through, and multiple times in many ways. But, we come in at one end and we're definitely going to leave out the other. Even if we found what we would call eternal life, eventually the universe is going to collapse. So we're not going to stay in this body. So that is a ritual of transformation. It's a death that leads to new life. What type of new life? I don't know. I haven't done it. Not in a way that I remember.
Yep.
I'm sure I have done it,
Yep.
but not in the way that I actually remembering and say, well, this and this and this happened. But there's a new form of life because this body stays here, but the personality in the body, the spirit in the body goes. It doesn't die. I was there when my mother literally passed away, closer to me than the screen of this laptop.
Mm.
When she took her last breath, when she opened her eyes and saw me and spoke my name, which is the very last word she said, came out of a coma, just looked at me and said my name and then went back and honestly, it was one of the most beautiful experiences and memorable experiences of my whole life. And I watched her take her last breaths and she stopped 3 times before it finished. At the end, it was almost like, come on, Mum, you can go, and then took a last breath and she wasn't there, but her body was. In human design, they talk about your personality and your design. Well, the design was there, the personality dropped its design. People go, well, can I change my design? Yeah, when you die, no problem, right? You just move on.
Yep.
The personality will take on a new design.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Great comparison.
So it will. You're not trapped in your design for all eternity. It's just the one you've got here. But if you don't have it, you're not you.
Yeah.
So those first 3 questions, coming back to that, all 3 of them have been, people have spent whole lives just pursuing one of them. What is tradition?
Okay.
Sorry, have you just frozen a little bit? Hello, Bekah?
What is tradition?
Yeah. What is tradition? People have spent lifetimes. Societies have spent hundreds and hundreds of years developing them, thousands, in some indigenous cases, of years of developing tradition. Nature, our relationship, in indigenous tribes, everyone is taught from scratch their relationship with the land. I mean, it's a really big deal for Australian Aborigines. their country, their land is so much a part of them. It's so built into their culture. Are you there still? Hello, Rebecca? You're back.
I'm back. Zoom should have recorded all of that, so hopefully at least the listeners heard.
Apparently I'm recording on this end, but it's been recording since we started, so it's got everything on it. And but hopefully your recording's working as well. Maybe it's just these are heavy topics and it's too much for the internet.
They are. So with all of like the updates, we're seeing the astrological trends aligning with what's really coming and surfacing right now, with these fears of pain acting out in different ways. What would you advise to people like during this time? What can they really be doing to be proactive with this rebirth, to allow for the change individually and collectively?
Yeah. Well, firstly, at the end of the email, I talk about relax.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's
but
not
it's crazy, Christopher.
I know. It is. Right?
Yeah.
But you are not what you think, despite what you think. That's one thing, 45 years of meditating has taught me. I'm not who I think I am. And I'm not even who I feel I am. There's something inside of me that's just so constant, so natural, so beautiful. And it's very obvious that my mind finds it very difficult to relax. I'm sure that's the same for everybody, right? And it's also difficult for your feelings and your emotions. However, there are lots of ways that out there to relax. So I'll just we're just waiting for Rebecca to recording. I've just put my recording back on again.
Okay.
Yeah. So look, our mind and our emotions aren't designed to relax. They don't mind relaxing, but they're like the weather. That's never going to go away. So trying to meditate to get your mind to stop, which is just another way of trying to control your mind. It's another control trick. It's just a waste of time. There is something greater that is within you, that is you, that just sits there. And when you can relax enough, and there are thousands of ways, when I say relax, I mean find out what relaxes you.
Yeah.
And take time to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Take time to do it. Because that's a good investment these days.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So relax and then relax as much as you can. Right? Whenever you get the chance, take some time. Take a deep breath. Just sit back and don't talk so much in my case. Just take it easy. Right? I think you're frozen again. Have you? Yes. I think it's because we've got to. Okay. So take a deep breath. Have a massage. Go and stand in the sunshine. Take a few moments to chill. In the middle of an argument, take a break. Yeah. Take a breather. Have a cup of tea. Do some meditation. Go for a walk in nature, get some exercise. In other words, start relating to the earth and nature.
Yes.
Right, in the middle of a civilized dispute, supposedly, right, a business negotiation, a crazy day, reconnect with nature
Yeah.
and reconnect with who you are inside of you, because that's the root of your tradition.
Mm.
You know, breathe.
Yeah.
Realize it's a gift to be alive, whatever it takes, you know, have a drink, you know, have a half a glass of whiskey or something, if that relaxes you, not 3 glasses, you know, but just, you know, whatever, relax. Because that's what Neptune's saying, relax. Be a little humble, open up,
Mm-hmm.
or allow yourself to calm down. Now, in your human design, for those of you who know about human design, if you're a manifestor like you, get back in touch with peace. And first of all, identify what peace is in your experience. When you're getting angry, don't get angry at being angry. Just walk back. Do whatever you need to do to re-establish that connection with peace.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a generator like me, when you're getting frustrated, don't get frustrated about being frustrated. Just come back to do whatever you need to do to get back in touch with satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a projector, don't strive for success. You are success. Get back in contact with that feeling. Get back there. Whatever you need to do to get back, and then take the next step forward in the discussion, the negotiation, in dealing with your life, in dealing with the chaos. Right? So those are some simple things. The third thing is realize I've only done 3 of 11 questions.
Yeah.
And right now, all 11 that people have taken thousands of years to come to grips with, and some of them in the next 8, those things are to do with, how can I put this? Things that we've really examined in depth in the last 1,500 years. And some of them only in the last 100 or 200 years. And all 11 of those questions are coming up at once in 1 year, and we're only 6-7 months into it, rather than over thousands of years of history. So if you're not feeling the chaos, you're completely cut off from reality. You're not in touch with what's going on. You know, you need to acknowledge, recognize, hey, chaos is going on.
Yeah.
2, acknowledge it. It stresses me out. Or, God, it's difficult to handle. Well, of course it is. You've got thousands of years of history all condensing down to right now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this pressure on all of us. No wonder people are going nuts, because it's so easy to get crazy about something or to attack something, because that's a distraction. It's like taking a drug.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it distracts you from what's really going on, rather than identifying and coming to grips with what is coming on. And it's life saying you've never been more powerful, you've never been more conscious, you've never been more capable than you are now. It's not a sign we're all falling apart. It's a sign that we're ready to move. It's like you've graduated college and now, you know, you're ready to go out there and get a life, or you're walking down the aisle, or you're giving birth to your first baby, or your children have just had their first children. You know, it's like one of those moments in life where now you're ready to be a grandparent. Now you're ready to be a husband or a wife, a mother or a father, you know. Now you're ready to go out in the real world. So it's one of those profound moments.
Yeah.
So if you recognize that, even that takes a lot of the stress off you. because it's like the reason to relax is because if you don't, you're going to be in a much more difficult place to deal with things. So relaxing is a really practical strategy. It's like, okay, I'm really capable now. I've got all these gifts. Give them space to show up. Give the right people the space to come into your life. Stop projecting all your stress on other people and just put it into the earth. Or ask for help from something greater.
Yeah.
Your tradition. Or, okay, what's a more civilized way of dealing with this where everybody benefits?
Yeah.
Right? Where everybody, even the people I disagree with.
Yeah.
Those first three questions. But if you're relaxed, if you're acknowledging, we've never had a challenge like this ever, but there's proof that I'm up for it because I'm still here and I'm still alive.
Yes.
If you weren't here and you weren't alive, and particularly someone like yourself, if you weren't interested, right, you wouldn't be ready. But because you are, that's proof that you are ready to deal with this. Right? So that's that. And let me have a quick look at the other questions. I might even share screen if that's okay with you.
Yeah, please do. I think it's helpful to visually see it.
Okay, so these are the other 8, and I'll go through them quickly. People have been really looking at these intensively over the last 1,500 years and even less. So, big deal. What is culture? Culture isn't civilization, right? Culture is culture. What is it? Does it mean what is cancel culture? They call it culture, but obviously people are talking about culture, whatever they label it as, right? The culture is now a big deal, right? Now this one, I've been watching this for 40 or 50 years. You know, what is the relationship between male and female? A big deal. Now these things, these couple have been going on for 1,000 years or more, big time. Not just in the Western world either. What is the role of religion? Well, who ever thought of bringing that up? That's been going on for, I mean, religion has a role. Has it been just the oppression of the masses, or has it been something deeper? What is the true role of religion? And what is the role of ideals? Ideals were a big deal in the 1500s, 1700s, you know, the age of enlightenment and all this just before that. Ideals were like, they've been a big deal for 500 or 600 years. How do we engage our imagination and set it free? You know, the age of enlightenment, they called it. There was that was 100, 200 years just in itself. How do we engage our imagination and set it free, not put it in a box, not just push it out the window?
Yeah.
And what is imagination? Then, as we've become more powerful and people have started traveling all over the world, what is the right use of our will? Do we impose it on other people through politics, warfare, bullying, dominating personally or on a country level or whatever? Well, look at that. What is culture? Well, it's to do with the relationship between male and female. It involves religion. It involves ideals. It involves imagination. It involves the right use of will, right? How do we deal with, heal, and empower our psychology? That's been a big deal over the last 100 or 150 years. You know, psychology, wow, it's a brand new science, yeah. But how do we deal with it? How do we heal and empower what psychology shows us? What is the role of psychology? Like, what is the role of religion? All cultures, all men and women, or male and female energies, all religions, all ideals, all imagination, all will involve psychology, right? So how do we create it how do we deal with that and heal it and empower it? And finally, how do we develop healthy understanding? This has been the last 50 years, us hippies and so on, including of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the musical Hair? You know, no, oh my God.
Musical Hair.
Young people, they don't know anything about history. It was a tribal love rock hippie musical.
Oh.
Yeah, you should look it up. I'm sure there are songs you've heard from it.
Yeah.
Like just behind you, one of them is called Let the Sun Shine. And you've got the sun shining in behind you. So how do we develop healthy understanding? And this is the absolute kicker, including of each other. How do we understand people who are different, not people who just agree with us? That's called a tribe, right? What about other tribes and other cultures and other men or women or male or female expressions, other religions, other ideals, people with different imaginations, people who use their will differently, people who've got completely different psychology. So I don't want to get too deep and meaningful. It's just that all 11 of those have come to a head this year. It's like we're trying to answer all of them at the same time. And if that doesn't lead, that's what's creating the chaos in the world. That's the big deal. Now, it doesn't mean you've got to go and get an answer for every question. The best thing to do, and this is why human design is so useful, is use your strategy and inner authority to deal with whichever ones are showing up for you at the moment. Are you having problems in your relationship? Do you hate the culture? You're looking for another culture. You know, you don't feel there's any scope for you to be imaginative? You're going crazy, which means maybe you need a little bit of psychology or a little bit of, you know, advice from somebody, a psychologist or an elder, a good friend, someone who knows what they're talking about. And what about this understanding? Well, that's the whole of my life's work. How do we actually understand? Healthy understanding. There's understanding, this is the way it is. That's the way it is, right? That's it. And if you don't understand that, you're bleep, bleep, bleep. That's not healthy understanding. That creates separation. That creates pain. That hurts people. That hurts you, even if you don't think so. Hurts you massively. It limits your understanding. It chokes it. It limits your understanding by crushing your imagination, misusing your will, twisting your psychology, and, you know, turns you into a religious nut and destroys your culture. Disconnects you from civilized behavior, disconnects you from the earth, and you deny your tradition, and you wonder why the only thing you've got left is chaos. All of these things really matter. And if everybody matters, these are 11 things that really matter to every person. If you try and swallow it all at once now, it'll choke you. It's too much, even as evolved as we've become. That's why the internet is filled with information about all of this and so much more, stuff that isn't even relevant, right? And you can't cope with it. Nobody can. So you need to be selective. You need to make decision. What is showing up for me now? You know, do I need to sort out my relationship? Do I need to learn to understand people who are different? Like my family is in Thailand, they're Thai. We speak different languages. I've got to learn to understand their culture, their tradition, their connection with the land, how they live together as a civilization. I've got to understand all of that. So that's up for me, right? But what's up for you? I'll ask you, Bekah, I mean, you know, what of those 11, which ones jump out at you at the moment?
All of them are processing, and I've noticed a lot of what we talked about before, which is still processing, is the relationship between male and female. That one's quite important right now.
Well, of course.
Psychology, mindset.
Yep.
Yeah, really the
So
role that the mind does play.
What have you learned about male and, I didn't say men and women, I said, what have you learned about male and female lately?
There is quite a bit of chaos between the two still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're different.
Yeah.
That's one of the big ones. They're different.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and I see there's more intention of understanding each other versus
nice.
fighting against each other from, you know, of course, my world I'm living in, my reality. I think there's also a lot of still resistance too.
Of course there is. Because, look, that's beautiful, the fact that you've actually realised that. You know, you've said there's an alternative to fighting. I mean, that changes thousands of years of human history. Just that.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I said at the end of the email, no matter how much you've become in touch with this, even if it's just a little bit or it's really significant, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you've kept in, even that teeny little bit can be a completely, Pluto isn't a big planet. It isn't even called a planet by scientists anymore. It's a teeny little thing right out on the edge of our our solar system. And yet it has such a deep and powerful effect. So little realization can be really big things. You know, that some of the biggest trees that grow come from teeny little seeds. So the fact you said, well, there's a better alternative than fighting. It's like, yes, it's like, well done,
Yeah, that's a good reminder and probably a good place to wrap up as well and say, between all of the questions you've addressed and the ones that have been repeating and focused on over the last thousands of years, if not over 1,000 years, I think the reminder is, listening to this video, it's really eye-opening. And then the question becomes, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to focus on all of these different important topics? And I think, the answer is to allow for each of those to come to you and to be at peace, calm down, and then go through that pain. If there is pain there, process it, and then let the next one come. And naturally those will arise.
Sometimes they'll be incredible.
Versus trying to check the list off. Christopher said I need to do 11 questions and then make sure I peeled all of them today.
That makes me look like a school teacher.
Hey, that's how we were trained.
No, here's the beauty. Then Since the 23rd of July through to the 23rd of September, it's the most powerful time of this year. From the 23rd of July to the 23rd of August, it's very creative. The best thing to do this month is to play with it. Be creative, have fun with it, deal with it like a child does. Oh, this has shown up. Oh, this has shown up. Oh, this has shown up. And be like a child, like really learn. And if there is pleasure, if there is pain, learn from it. Don't indulge in it, just take it in and let your heart open up like a child, grow like a child. And then from the 23rd of August through to the 15th of September, it's a time to, now, how does this actually work? It's to get a little more adult, a little more analytical, a little more what's working, what isn't working. I mean, I'm not saying you have to do it, it's just the energy's there to do this. And then there's this little 8-day gap, and then the 23rd of September, from the 15th of September to the 23rd, there's this sort of pause. Okay, I've worked really hard for the last 55 days. There's been so much energy to process. And then, boom, around the 23rd of September, the second most powerful day of the year, that's when the wisdom will start striking. That's when it'll flood in. It's like, and that's what you want to work with for the rest of the year, very honestly. Like, I've been through this playful time, practical time, took a break, got the wisdom. Now for the rest of the year, how am I going to roll this up or set things up for the rest of the decade? So there's this, right at the moment, Jesus, there's so much going on. And, you know, what are we going to do? And it's like, I've got to relax now. Relax, you know, and then, okay, that's painful, or just go, okay. Come on, life. Help me out here. Higher self, whatever you pray to, you know, just mind, take it easy, recognize what's happening, acknowledge it. Where there's need to let go, let it go. If it doesn't resonate with you, let it go. You know, if you've repeating the same old painful habits and you finally come to grips with them, let them go. Right? And then the change will start unfolding in your life naturally. Now, the details of that are incredibly practical for each individual person. But if you bust those delusions of insignificance, that you don't matter, you do, and that you've never been as powerful as a human being, you're at the greatest point of development so far as a human being. I don't feel like it. I don't think so. Where's the feedback? My boyfriend just left me. You know, it's like, no. You're right here coping with this, dealing with this, at least experiencing it. If you can embrace that about yourself and go, there is greatness in me, and life is going to help reveal that over time, if life and I, nature and the earth, tradition, and us start working together. The part of my greatness is I can allow myself to receive. I can receive help, whether it's from the earth, from other people, from something higher. That's what makes us great. We're so receptive, so open now. The feminine is now much more empowered, so the masculine can become strong. And if we keep judging it against social media or just media in general, we're going to have a very poor opinion of ourselves. But if we judge it against what's the context that we're really in and our personal lives and who we are, yeah, I agree. See, the bird agrees. If we judge it against that, not even judge it, if we assess it, if we evaluate ourselves, find our value, then we're going to realise there's never been a better time to be alive, more challenging, but more rewarding than right now. And while everyone else is saying everything's going to crap, we can be turning it into fertilizer and growing the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. Agreed. All right. I'd say this is a good place to end for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm satisfied.
Me too. That last comment too, I saw that in your email.
Yeah.
Turn
Yeah.
shit into fertilizer.
Yeah.
That's it. All right.
Well, thank you, Bekah. It's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure again.